Grab your coffee and get cozy, mamas, as we dive into an insightful conversation with Krystal Mills. With a master's degree in education, Krystal is not only a dedicated middle school teacher, but she's also a life coach. She specializes in empowering teachers to reclaim their evenings and weekends, allowing them to embrace a fulfilling life beyond the classroom. By striking a sustainable balance between work and mom and home, Krystal helps educators find harmony and create the lifestyle they deserve. Drawing from her personal experience of overcoming burnout herself, low energy, and time constraints, Krystal is deeply passionate about helping women break free from the endless cycle of work, mom, sleep, repeat. Join us as we explore her journey in this truly impactful conversation.
Yep.
And be sure to stick around until the end for an incredible offer that you don't want to miss. Say, let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
Hey mama, welcome to the Balanced Mom Method podcast. I know you're here because you're tired of living day after day like you're drowning in the responsibilities of motherhood. You're done struggling with trying to find the time and energy to get it all done every day. And you want to show your little ones a good example, but you're so exhausted, which has your negative self-talk on repeat, your patience spread thin, and you feel like you're losing yourself a little more every day. Plus, the mom guilt, societal comparison game, and unpredictabilities of motherhood just does not help in trying to make a change. Well, sweet friend, this podcast will guide you on how to connect with yourself to break free from that survival mode cycle, all by identifying and possibly simplifying your habits. Hey, I'm Jenna, and I've been where you are. I was consumed in the struggles of motherhood, and I needed to make a change to take back control of my time, energy, identity, and life. And in finding that freedom, it became my mission to help make that connection with moms that we can give our children and families the best and not at the expense of our own health, self, and well-being. Moms shouldn't have to choose between their families, priorities, and themselves. We can balance it all, and it all starts within ourselves. Let me take your hand and make that connection with you and equip you with simple, lifelong habits. If you are ready to say goodbye to just surviving and finally reclaim your life in motherhood, then you are in the right place. Let's get to the root of cultivating real change because it's time to feel like you again. Warm up that cold coffee, pop in your earbuds, and tighten that top knot, mama. Let's overcome together. Hey mamas, thank you so much for being here with us today on the Balanced Mom Method podcast. We have a very special guest today, Krystal Mills, who seriously seems like Superwoman. She is a full-time teacher, has her master's of education. She's a wife, a mom of two, and a certified life coach, whom after a decade of teaching, maybe a little longer, about 14 years of teaching, she hit a wall and she fell into monotony, the day-to-day stressors, the burnout, the low energy, those feelings of having no time to do the things that you actually want to be doing. And she maybe felt like she needed to step away from teaching because of those inner battles that she was facing. But through finding her way back, through finding her way through, it became a passion of hers to help other women too break out of their own cycle of that work, mom, sleep, repeat, and do more of things that truly bring us joy, what we want to be doing. So I want to turn the mic over to you, Krystal. And if you could just start by sharing a little bit about yourself and how you started your coaching business and just tell us all about you.
Oh my gosh, Jenna, I'm so excited to be here. That's quite a intro. So I'm Krystal Mills. Like you said, I've been teaching for over a decade. It's year 17 is what I'll be finishing out right now. And it's been mostly in junior high, which I tell people is a very magical time.
I read that and I was like, junior high. That I should have put that in your intro too, because that's a pretty deep age.
Yeah. It really is. I feel it's a very special, magical time in junior high. But I have two kids. They are two boys, 15 and almost 13. I'm married and I live on the east coast of Canada in Prince Edward Island. A few years it was 2020, that year. Mm-hmm. And I just really, the way I think of it now is I just kind of was falling out of love with teaching, which was shocking to me because I only ever wanted to be a teacher. And I found myself just kind of like, what else can I do? Like, what else is there? If I'm not a teacher, who am I and what am I doing? And kind of to make a long story short, I found life coaching and I found my way back to my passion for teaching through life coaching, and then realized, okay, if I could figure this out for myself, then I can help other people do this as well. So for the last couple of years, I've been working with women, mostly teachers, because we kind of get it. I get what they're going through, but I've coached with people who are not teachers. But just to figure out, how do you find your way back? How do you make your time your own? Because everyone is so busy, hectic and overplanned. And I think at the end of the day, we all just want some space and some like room to breathe and exhale and not feel like we're constantly in that, go sort of place.
Exactly.
So yeah. So that's
exactly. When you said like you felt like teaching was the only thing that you ever had, like that just like was a light bulb to me. Like, how many moms feel that their only identity is mom? And probably it is the same with a lot of people in a profession too. Like, if I'm not doing this, what can I do? Like, that is my identity. So can you talk to me a little bit, like how you stepped into, stepping out, like moving through, like you were in this low place of burnout. Is teaching, am I stepping away from teaching? How this is all that I know? Like, how did you kind of move through that?
Oh, that's a really good question. So it didn't happen quickly. And I feel like I had to be honest with myself to begin with. And I was that teacher who like overachiever teacher, like needing to do a really good job all the time. And so I feel like the first thing was to try to get really honest about, what do I actually want? And what does a life potentially look like not in the classroom? And when I sort of laid it out for myself, I couldn't see myself not in the classroom at all. And so I started to sort of look at other options. And whenever I found coaching, it just sort of opened up a whole other world. And for me, it sort of gave me an inside view into thoughts and beliefs and things that I didn't even know that I had. And those were the things that were weighing me down. Like, I knew how busy I was, and I knew how, I was trying to keep up with the kids and, the needs of my students. But it was really the expectations I was placing on myself and what I was making it mean to be a really good teacher, a really good mom, and those super high expectations. And when I could kind of realize that's way too much and way too high of a standard, that's when it started to release a little bit. And I'm like, oh, well, I could teach if I don't have to teach to that level. I can just teach at like a normal level and still be very professional with great lessons, but then go home and not take all my correcting and plan all these other, activities and fun things for them to do, and like have time with my husband and my kids to do other things. So I think it really started with being honest about what I wanted and what I wanted for my future. And, that's not to say that someday maybe I'll walk away from teaching, but as long as I enjoy it and still find passion for it, I still want to be there. And I feel very grateful for the fact that I'm able to do both. I can do the coaching and work with my students as well. And I found a harmony for the two. And that's, I guess, where the passion is, for trying to help other people do the same thing.
It is so powerful just listening to you speak, because that is such a big disconnect, is like listening to you, right? Listening to, what do you want? You might feel like that expectation of, well, I can't do it all because I can't do it all to this standard, like what you were just saying. But you can do it all, because if it brings you joy, you probably, like, releasing that expectation and letting go of that expectation, you're probably still surpassing, like that standard or what have you. So because you're releasing that like pent up, just pressure, right? So I absolutely love that. I just love that you shared that piece of like being honest with yourself and reconnecting, bringing in this show a little bit, right? But like reconnecting to you and that soul piece of you, and you still loved teaching, right? So I love that. And you can do both. You definitely can do both. So now I'm curious, like with time management piece and with being busy, like how do you balance, let's say, teaching with your family, with yourself?
I think for me, it comes down to the boundaries that I have in place. Because, it's really easy to let things slide and to sort of I mean, the 2 or 3 worlds kind of blend into each other, but I think it's knowing when to say when, and what is the level of, let's say expectation with work. What is the minimum level that I have to do today to do my job to the best of my ability? Do I have more time to go beyond that? Yes, no. And then, okay, no, I've sort of met that level for what needs to be done. And now I'm going to go for a walk in the evening. Like it's all the pieces have to play together, because I think, if you don't have the time for the things that you really do enjoy, like spending time with your kids, spending time with your partner, getting out. Like I'm huge into nature and going for walks in the woods and the beach. And if I don't find time to do those things, then everything else is going to suffer, because I'm going to be a cranky, unhappy person. So it's really having boundaries, and once you make the boundary, then like really respecting that boundary that you put in place. And a lot of times that comes back to having to say no. Like right now, it's kindergarten night at school. Like they're setting up for our new kindergartners. I had this on this evening, this interview with you. And so I kind of felt a little bit pulled, because I maybe should be helping set up for a welcome to kindergarten night. But it's at, 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and I stayed at school until 4. And so that's fine. My job was done. I don't have to say yes to every single thing. I don't have to go looking for other things to take and put onto my plate, because I have these other things sort of on the go, whether with the kids or with the coaching business or just for myself and, things that I want to do.
I love just that synergy piece. How you said, like, they do all flow together, because I'm bringing it back to you, right? Like it's your life, and it's your life work. It's your responsibility to blend those pieces to still find your peace and your joy and your happiness. Absolutely. So I just like kudos to you.
Absolutely.
So in terms of like helping, like a mom listening or a teacher listening, kind of what is like your top advice, or where do you start with your clients when they come to you? They're saying they're so overwhelmed with everything that's on their plate. Like, I don't even know where to start. Is this what I need right now? Like, do I need your help? Like, how do you kind of work through that?
Well, that's a really good question. So if a client were to come to me, let's say, and she's just, well, first of all, a lot of times I think it's part of the problem is people not feeling like they have the time to even take the coaching call. Because it's like, if you had any idea what was on my plate right now, you would know that I don't even have time to meet with you for an hour to even talk about this. But that's kind of where we start. It's what is on your plate? Like, what is happening in your life right now? And to have a conversation about that. And most people, and I've done this in writing and just with talking, if I asked you to start rhyming off, like, what are the different things that you're responsible for today, yesterday, like this week? Like, could it fit on a page? Things that appointments that you had to make, things you had to do for work, things that you had to do for the kids. What about the house? What about the food prep? Like, tell me about all the things that are on your plate. And usually when we start kind of having that conversation, it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's why I'm so overwhelmed. Like it's all of these things. And once you kind of lay them all out, it's like, okay, so, is there any room on that plate for you? That's kind of the other question, because sometimes there's lots of things on the plate, but there may be like a little teeny tiny little corner of the plate that someone is maybe going to get out for a walk, or maybe not, or maybe have a hair appointment or something, but it's usually very much about everybody else. And so where we generally start is there something like, what is the low hanging fruit? What is something that you could think about taking off your plate, like right now? Is there something that really doesn't have to be done? And sort of have a conversation about that. And very often there's something that doesn't, there is something that kind of falls under that category. Is there something that doesn't have to be done by you? So it's something that somebody else could potentially take on. Is there something you could ask for help with? Is there something you could change your expectations around? Because there is a lot. And, depending on the season of life you're in, If you've got little kids, that's very different than when you're like me with kind of teens and tweens now. Like it's a different life depending on the season you're in. And so I think that's part of it too. Like you didn't get any sleep because the baby was up and you have all these different expectations that are on top of you. So like, is there something you could delegate, someone you could ask a little bit of help from to take that off your plate? And it does, it changes as your kids get older, as if you have a second or a third, and a little bit of self-compassion, kind of like noticing all the things that you've taken on and having a bit of compassion for yourself. I mean, that's kind of the way it was for me. Like I had to realize I was holding myself to the standard that I wouldn't expect anybody to hold themselves to. And that's what the problem was. And once I could kind of figure that out, then it's up to me to change that. And it's kind of uncomfortable when you're used to having that standard, but there's really no other way around it. So to kind of start with that conversation about, you know, getting really honest, what's on the plate, what does it look like, and looking for the low hanging fruit that can come off of the plate, or somebody who can maybe help you out with delegating tasks, that kind of thing. And that's kind of where we would begin. Because a lot of times that brings things up because people don't want to say no. Like, I don't want to ask for help. And if someone asks me, can you help with XYZ? I don't want to tell them no. Like, so that's sort of where then some coaching can happen with some of the responses and some of the way that it feels uncomfortable to think about delegating some of those responsibilities to someone. But if you don't, then you're just that plate's going to get heavier and heavier, and then stuff's going to start falling off, and you might end up just dropping the plate altogether and having to like sweep up the pieces.
Exactly. And that's when, the rock bottom hits, the burnout hits, like you have these external feelings or external emotions, right? But what you said, like a lot of times that's when things come up, is you're taking that time to tell me what is on your plate right now. Because we're so used to just going through those motions day after day after day. And we feel those feelings, you know, we're feeling stressed, we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling burnt out, but we're not taking that time to figure out why and get to that root. So what is on your plate right now? Precisely. I love it.
What do you want on your plate right now? Like what's on there? And is there anything that somehow made its way on there and you didn't ask for it? And for some reason, you just haven't thought to take it off of there, because that's come up in some different conversations as well. Volunteering of some sort, like different things that maybe used to fulfill you, and now it's just sucking your time and you're not sure how to get out of it, but God, you wish you could, because that would gain you 2 extra hours a week if you didn't have that volunteer thing that you had to do that you don't really love anymore. But you're so busy you don't have the time to really lay it out and think about those things. And I love it. Time management. Like, so okay, I want to get more into time management, but it just light bulb moment came to me with like saying no to things, right? So talk to me about guilt. Talk to me about, is there like a teacher guilt, but you know, mom guilt, just like guilt in general, right? Like, guilt. Well, because it has to do with the shoulds. It has to do what you feel like you're supposed to be doing. And I mean, I think teacher guilt, like I suppose if I wanted to, you know, not being up at the school helping with the kindergarten evening this evening, if I wanted to, I could probably feel a little bit guilty about that. But it's I'm choosing not to take that on. Like, nobody asked me to do it. I would then be putting that on myself, and then what am I going to gain from that? Then it's, you know, into this conversation, and there's nothing to be gained. But as far as guilt goes, mom guilt is huge, I think, for a lot of people, because it's like you're supposed to always put your kids first. And so if you always put your kids first, how do you ever get to be first without having some sort of internal battle, internal dialogue there? And I think obviously our kids are important, but our kids, or students, you know, employees, staff members, they need you to be the best you. And so the best you is not going to be the drained, bitter, resentful version of you who can't remember the last time she, you know, fill in the blank here, went for a walk or did a workout or did something that like you really wanted to do because you're always doing for everybody else. And so I think whenever we choose to do something for ourselves and then we're like, but I'm supposed to drive the kid here, or there's this activity and now I feel like I should be there and I'm choosing to, go and have coffee with my girlfriends. And I feel like I should be over there helping with the Heritage Fair project or something like that. Mm-hmm. I feel like rather than feel like you should change your plans or feel like you need to somehow make up for this guilt feeling, you need to take that, and this is my opinion, you need to take that as a sign that you're actually on the right track, because it means that you are choosing something that is in line with what you feel you need. You're getting a need met from that social interaction with your friends. You're going to get energy. It's going to be fun. And also the fact that I just think it's more of a society problem. When we feel guilt, to me, it's like what society has us believe moms should feel. Like, how dare you go out for your friends when your kid needs help with their homework or something like that. Like, a good mom would make sure that the project is done first, not go out, and gather with friends. So the way I kind of think of it is when that feeling sort of arrives, because it will, kind of two things. Think about it in terms of, okay, I'm feeling a little bit guilty, but that's not a bad thing. And that doesn't mean I'm going to change my plans. It means I'm actually trying to choose something for myself, which is going to actually positively impact everybody in my life. And this is more of a society problem than a me problem, because moms and women, we're in this place where, what does it mean to be a good mom, a good teacher, a good nurse, a good whatever, good employee? And how, messed up is that I can't even go and enjoy something without feeling this little bit of nagging guilt. So to kind of reframe it, I think, is important.
Reframing the guilt. I totally agree with that. I was actually, when I was saying my prayers this morning, I had a little bit of guilt. Actually, I'm going to be totally transparent with, my son is starting 4K in the fall, and my daughter might be starting daycare, around that time. So I'm like, I'm going to get emotional right now, but just thinking like, oh my gosh, like that new season of like me not being with them full time anymore. Did I do enough? But, like all these feelings, right? And I'm just like praying over that, like, help me find that clarity, like help me find that peace and release that guilt, because like I do my best every day, and like we have the tools, I know the how to, but we're still not perfect. Right. And what you said with like kind of reframing that thought, it's so true, because I took it like that. Like after I, kind of lived on and, kind of started my day, went through that day, it kind of like came to me later on throughout the afternoon where I'm like, that's a good thing, Jenna, because now I'm acknowledging, like, now I can like focus on the present. Or if I do feel, because I'm a big introvert, it's hard for me to get out of the house. So it's like acknowledging, like, maybe I should plan some summer activity, so it's like that acknowledgement piece to where I can't change the past. You can't be, feel guilty about it anymore, and reframing that and using it as that positive. So I love that you brought in that piece of like reframing, because it just gave me all the feels.
I love that too. I love that.
It is, because like being that stay-at-home mom, but work-at-home mom, it's always like that push pull of, I'm waiting for nap time, but I still want to be with them. Like, I'm so grateful for that. So it's that other piece of balance that you were saying with like just intermingling and finding that synergy piece of it all. So I love that, coming from a work out of home parent, you still find that synergy, and you're still finding that self-care and taking care of you too. I love it. Tangent there. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. Gosh, I have another tangent. I have to ask if you've ever read this book. Have you heard of the book? I had to write it down. Live Free, by, I think it's Devin Franklin. Have you ever heard of
but
that?
Now I'm going to write it down.
So I started it at the end of last year, and I was just not in a place to start reading yet. With my daughter, wasn't a year yet, and I was like on again, off again. And it was a book all about it's a book about expectations, and it's a thick book. And I'm like, okay, how much about expectations can we really dive into? Right. This book has been life-changing, because he like comes out first thing and says like, your life is lived on your expectations and others' expectations. And it was mind-boggling, because I'm seeing, like, he talks about communication. He talks about expectations with yourself. He talks about societal expectations, cultural, religious, like everything boils down to the expectations either with yourself or with other people. And it has just changed my world. in just that sense of like helping with communicating, helping with like living with peace and joy and, you know, figuring out like what those expectations might be for me. So you said something within this conversation where I wrote it down. I forget exactly what you were talking about, but you've touched a little bit on expectations and not so much lowering them, but almost like acknowledging them and reworking them to fit into where you are within your season, within your life, whatever that might be. Pivotal. It's a great book.
Well, now I'm going to look it up, but it's really kind of like, how is that expectation serving you? Like, because when you said like not lowering them, because as like a perfectionist in recovery kind of thing is how I talk about myself almost, like there's a lot of good sides to having high expectations, but if it's not serving you anymore, then really like, what is the point? It's yeah. Okay. Well, now I need to look up that book. Huge reader, love it. So like, that's going to be on my list.
I believe it's Devin Franklin. It's upstairs in my room. It's not right here. So, Live Free. I know that's what it's called. And there's like an ocean on the cover. So with him, like,
well, thank you for the
it's a
book
great
recommendation.
Book. Yeah. Great book. So, okay, back to you, reeling it back in. So tell me about what services you offer, within your life coaching. So are you like focusedly like your time, like a time management life coach?
Yeah, it's, so I've, short answer, not really short answer, have sort of pivoted kind of back and forth in the last couple of years because I've been doing it for a couple of years now. Right now I work mostly with teachers, but I found, you know, it can kind of go across careers, but it's around kind of taking back your time. So like the program I'm offering right at the moment, it's the Time Take Back. And it's 12 weeks. It's a one-to-one coaching program where we really do we actually start before the first coaching session where you would fill out some different questions. And that's where you kind of are reflective and get honest with yourself about what's going on so that we can, when we get into that first coaching session, I sort of have created a bit of a roadmap for where you need to go, because a lot of people are like, I just need a plan. Like, I know, like, I'm struggling but I don't know what to do. I just need a plan. Or I know what to do. I just need to do it. I just need to do it already. So it's like one of those two things. So right now, primarily one-to-one coaching, but I do work full time. So I only coach with a couple of people a week, really. But it really starts about how can we take back your time and how can we have more spaciousness for you in your life so you're not just kind of on that hamster wheel and just going, busy. In teacher terms, it's like, how do we take back your evenings and your weekends? And I mean, that goes for everybody, but it's, you know, you get home from work and you've got this bag of correcting that follows you for your entire life. Like, right. You take it to school and back and to school and back. But it's the same thing if you're, you know, a work at home mom. If you're, how do you shut down? How do you turn off your teacher brain or your mommy brain? Or how can you just like take a bit of space for yourself? How do you get to the place where you want to take that space for yourself without, you know, like with dealing with that guilt and knowing like that could be a part of it? How do you figure out your priorities and like, what do you actually want? Like, what do you want your life to look like? What does it look like now? And what do you wish was different? And so we work at a plan to get you from A to B. Like, how could things be different? Because they can be so much better. You don't have to be super stressed out and, you know, this to-do list that you don't even want to write because you're like, that just stresses me out to think about all the things that would even go on the to-do list that I can't even think about even starting to write one. We kind of go through all those things. There's a huge mindset piece that just kind of depends on the person. You know, I think that's the main thing. It's a personalized program. It depends on you. It's not like a cookie cutter. I'm just going to walk you through these things. It depends who's in front of me and what do you need. And that could change. You know, we could get a few sessions in and you're like, holy crap, all this other stuff just came up. And now how do I deal with this? Well, we will pivot and we will change. And whenever I work with teachers, there's that extra kind of element that, because I have my master's in curriculum instruction and assessment. And so we could dive into the actual nitty gritty of like helping plan lessons and streamlining their planning. so that it's not like a day-to-day getting to the school and I have to get to the photocopier now because I don't have anything planned. So that you're not always like in a panic or just constantly pulled in one direction or another.
I love that, like, added bonus, right? Like, you could help them, like, with their teaching, like, the curriculum that's you said that's just I love it. That's so nothing is cookie cutter, right? Like, it's wonderful to have something that isn't black and white and that you could help someone move through within their life and for them. Like, that's customizable to them because we're evolving, we're ever changing, and to give them those tools, I'm sure that, like, everything that you teach them, right? Like, they could take on with them for years to come for the rest of their life. That's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you also are offering possibly something free to listeners of this episode, right? Tell me a little bit about that offer.
Well, I'm kind of excited about this. So, summer is around the corner. This is going to be going out in June, I believe. So again, teachers, so I'm going to have more time in June, July, August. And I would love to offer your listeners a bit of a strategy session. So from what we've been chatting about today, if sort of something has cropped up or you have a listener who is like, well, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed, I don't have time for XYZ. I wonder if, maybe we could figure out something for that. And I call them Take Back Your Time strategy session. So it's a half an hour. It's free. We hop on the call. And the goal is by the time we hop off the call, you have an action that you're going to take into your week to try to work through something that you're struggling with right now so that you can see an improvement in your life like now, like this week. So I'm excited to do that. And I'm not sure how, like, it'll depend on my schedule and the calendar, but if you're interested, absolutely. And I think you're going to have the link, click the link, see what spots are available. And I would love to chat. And kind of as an added bonus, it's not just the call, like whatever action step you kind of choose, I'm going to follow up with you, like, how's it going? You said you wanted to do this, that, or the other, and I'll just kind of follow up with you in an email because that accountability part is huge. And one of the reasons why coaching is so powerful, because having someone to kind of bounce ideas off of, but also to kind of know that someone's there to kind of support and help hold that accountability piece as well, can help with the action and the motivation and the follow through.
I love it. Yes. Everything that we talk about will be linked in the show notes below. I'm like air quoting right now. Silly. So where can people find you? Like Instagram, Facebook, website?
So krystalmillscoaching.com. It's probably always going to be in flux. So it is in flux right now. And Facebook, Krystal Mills Coaching, you'll find me there. I'm also Lessons from the Middle on Facebook because I have that on the teacher side, and I'm on Instagram as well, Krystal Mills Coaching, or the more teachery side is Lessons_from the Middle. So I'm in those different places.
Awesome. No, I'll link it all. Yeah, I'll link it all in the show notes. So
awesome.
No worries about scribbling or writing it down right now. Thank you so much. Like, I just feel like we drive, like we have a very similar, like, life passion, right? Like life work. And I thank you for everything that you do. Thank you just for the time that you've taken with us today. I can't wait to listen back to this episode as I'm scheduling it out and everything. And yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I've been looking forward to it. So I really appreciate the opportunity, Jenna. Thanks so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for being with us today. And until next week, mamas, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to reach your breakthrough. I'm sending my love and light.
Did you find this episode rainbow or for farming? Please leave Mama a review.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Balanced Mom Method podcast. I pray this episode has grown and helped you in some way. If it has, I'd be so grateful if you left a review sharing how it's impacted you. It truly lights me up hearing you are on your way to your breakthrough. And then, please share this episode with another mom who may be struggling to remind her we are never alone. And remember, there isn't ever a one-size-fits-all to overcoming our personal hardships, but there are a lot of parallels with how we show up to our lives and common habits we can make our own to live an intentional life full of peace, presence, confidence, clarity, and balance. Be sure to check the show notes for additional ways to connect with me our mom community, and resources and courses for you to overcome your survival mode cycle once and for all with doable habits. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do. Sending my love and light.